If you're watching this in 360 to 480p, there's a good chance that your primary gaming platform is also a mobile phone. And that's not because it is your preferred platform, but simply because it's the one available to you. Gaming consoles and PCs, at least where I'm from, are often more expensive than things people would consider essential. Buying a $1,000 PC for the sake of controlling 3D pixels is a leisure for the rich. And the price of a single game, which can be around $70, can represent something far more significant than just mere entertainment. It can represent survival. I'm talking groceries for a month in most homes. I know this because even though I've objectively considered myself a gamer all my life, I've never actually owned a console, not even SNES, nothing. I've never played any of these games. Not from lack of trying, but simply because I lack the access, the medium to do so. I'm a third world gamer, or TWJ for short, and if these circumstances apply to you, then you probably are one too. And I wanted to talk about what it's like to live life as a third world gamer. Spoilers up ahead, it's one tough cookie. One of the first things you realize as a third world gamer is that you don't choose your platform. In fact, the concept of console wars, which is something that's almost dead now, is something you will get to know a bit later. Here your platform chooses you. You simply play with what you've got. In many parts of the world, gaming begins with a console. A PS3 for someone my age, an Xbox One, or a gaming PC. A decision that defines loyalty, beckons conflict, and creates factions. But for many of us, gaming began on something far less specialized. A general purpose device that just happens to run game. A red snake with an insatiable appetite chasing an ever-disappearing ball. A red bouncy ball on a tiny screen. This piqued our interest, connecting the first gaming neurons and creating our first spark for this passion. A phone, a Nokia, a Tecno, an Infinix, a Samsung. These were our first console. Not because it's better, in fact, quite the opposite. Crude devices with limited options was the norm. Just because it serves multiple purposes, we were able to justify its cost. A case for a lot of TWJs as well, and even when you grow up to understand about the broader gaming space where you want to expand your horizons, you are soon faced with another incredible challenge. Yeah, no matter how you deny it, gaming is an expensive hobby. Bringing out over $1,000 for a hardware is going to dig a hole even in the most average lad's pocket. I'm not so deep in my world that I do not acknowledge that a $70 game is a huge expenditure for those living everywhere, even in highly developed countries with high income wages. That's why there have been kind of like a backlash against this exorbitant pricing. But to a TWJ, this concept is stretched to its very limit. In comparison, a fully built $20-25 PC with all of these specs, which can be around $3,000 or less, can buy landed property in some parts of where I'm from comfortably, and it has been like that since my conception. The cost of gaming is something unfeasible to the layman, and to add fuel to the flames, gaming hardware is not really a strong market here, leading to inflation of the already exorbitant cost. So unless you are among the rich, the concept of putting $600 for a PS5, which by the way is way above what some people actually earn in 3 months, is literally impossible for the average guy. But even if you're able to buy these gaming consoles or PCs through months or even years of saving, the cost of purchasing a game really begins to bleed you dry. That's why piracy is one of the first tools you learn as a TWJ, because it is literally the only way you can play games without starving. But that's the story for another day. But let's just say you, through some combination of patience, luck, and questionable financial decisions, you manage to get something capable of running modern games. even though your parents will probably flip upon hearing that. You quickly realize the next big problem. Modern games are enormous. I can make an entire video on the geometric increase in game size over the years, where at minimum a modern game is around 50 to 80 gigabytes of data. Most people around the world don't really notice this. They use broadband and fiber optics, so downloading such an enormous data in the first place is at most an inconvenience that just takes them a couple of minutes to hours. But here it's an event, an expensive, time-consuming event. Why? Mobile data. It's no new thing that mobile data, although convenient for on-the-go browsing, is expensive and slow compared to its brother. But here, it is the primary and sometimes the only source of internet connectivity for someone like me. Which, although I would say our data is cheaper per gigabyte than most developed countries, is still pretty expensive when compared to our income, especially if you are trying to do something like download 100 gigabyte game. And even if you have money to spend, like you got an unlimited plan, the slow speed, which normally caps at around 50 megabits per second for a very good network, can take 1 or 2 days of straight up downloading to get a game like Baldur's Gate 3 or the Insomniac Spider-Man series. And you are not even sure that network fluctuations would disrupt this your enormous hard work. Imagine spending 3 days downloading a file and having it cut at 99%. People have jumped up the bridge for less. So yeah, gaming in a third world country is quite difficult. And I haven't talked about things like latency problems that make online multiplayer games a rage bait too, where even if you are clutching against thousands of enemies, you can just get shut off by the network lords and cry in your bed. The stigma that comes with playing games, because gamers are equal to losers, they don't have anything to do with their life than to play around with pixels when they are trying to survive, and all kinds of little struggles that we face daily due to this lovable hobby. But this isn't a sad story filled with just difficulty. It's quite rather the opposite. A story of resilience and adaptation, where we learn not to count per frames or worry about flashy graphics quite early on, but rather focus on whether we can get the game to run. And oh boy, do we do some wonders. Where we master touch controls, able to play games with 6 fingers with both poise and accuracy. Doesn't look good actually, but you get the job done. Where despite our ping and high latency, we clutch from time to time against stable internet users, and we brag about it a lot. Where we developed microeconomies of sharing games physically through something I'll just refer to as SGS, where people actually spend their time to download the games and share those incredibly massive sizes of games for a small price. Where in the midst of all these challenges, more than I can fit into a video, we still find a way. Bookmarking titles we hope to afford in the future, staying up to date with the gameplay videos to keep that our desires burning. I love watching game ranks from time to time, creating videos like this that probably earn me enough money to buy a gaming PC in time for GTA 6. If you guys actually subscribe, please. We are third world gamers and we love gaming. If you enjoyed the video, why don't you just hit that button and subscribe. This is my story as a third world gamer. Thanks for listening to this long ass rant, and I will see you in the next one. I'm out though.